I'll tell you what I tell people. I'm not so interesting. I just know a lot of interesting people.
Rabbi Seltzer, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Rabbi.
Yes, Rabbi Seltzer, I have had the privilege of knowing you for 15 years. It seems like you've always been publishing another book. I don't know how many books you're up to now, but it seems like every time I open Mishpacha magazine, aside from your article, I get to see the books. And I wanted to talk to you more about what's going on right now in Eretz Yisrael. We had 2 years of COVID and we had 2 years of war, and now finally the airports have opened up, the missiles have stopped, and we're at a moment in history where we really need to relearn the lessons of COVID and this war. What can you teach us? What can you tell us from your experience?
COVID was an interesting thing. I learned that it's all about your own family. COVID taught me that lesson because until then, you think it's so important. Your neighbors, your friends are so important. Your shul, and they are important. I don't want to take that away. But what's the most important thing is what happens inside your house. And if a family had a good relationship before COVID, COVID allowed them to strengthen that relationship because they were together with their kids a lot. They were with their wife, and Shabbos were just them without guests. And so for us, it was a good period of time because it gave us that ability to really come together as a family. And afterwards, we were able to actually move from our old neighborhood because we realized we can move to another neighborhood. And it doesn't matter. It's not about the neighbors or the friends. It's about us and our house. And so we're able to do that.
COVID taught me, and maybe you'll agree, that first of all, you don't have to go to the bank. Okay. My bank suddenly, they don't even allow me to deposit cash anymore. They're like, you want cash, go to the machine. And it also gave, it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that Hashem was kind of preparing the world for a situation where we go away from Gashmias. Everything that happens in the world, a person has to believe it's coming from Hashem, and it's a message to our generation. So moving on to the war, how would you describe your experience with the war?
The war is very much like COVID, global. And the war, I think, is there to tell everybody outside of Eretz Israel, it's kedai for you to start thinking about buying a place in Israel. Just because if anything we've learned from history, we have a shelf life in other countries. It's kedai to think ahead. I really feel the war taught us that. I think the war is still teaching us that. I think everything changed. I think it's nothing, the world is not at all the way it was before October 7th. I think anti-Semitism right now is only going to increase in the years to come. I don't think that we returned at all. It looks like it's calm. I do not think it's calm. I think everything changed. For me, the war changed everything.
This war isn't over.
No, not at all.
We were sitting in a sukkah 2 months ago, and we were getting missiles, and how quickly we forget, and everything goes back to normal.
You forgot. I didn't forget. You
No, but I'm
forgot.
saying, yes, I have moments when I forget. I have moments when I get in my car and I have to pinch myself that I'm actually, it's
All
quite
you
it's
need to
quite
do is
amazing.
go to LinkedIn. So just go to LinkedIn and look at the stuff being posted there, and you'll remember. Go to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a business site, and I have a lot of people who are constantly getting invitations for people to want to join my business network. And I can tell you that that is a place that used to never be exposed to anti-Semitism. It was purely a business network, and today every other thing on there is Palestinian. It's hate stuff. It's a scary, scary situation.
You mentioned LinkedIn. I know that you don't go on social media. You don't have WhatsApp. Eretz Yisrael, to me, is living day by day. It's getting them on every single day. And I wanted to know if maybe you could share some of your life experience about stories that we could only happen in Eretz Yisrael.
So it goes back when I was in the mirror. I was a younger man. I was learning with a bacher in the mirror, going back a long time ago. I was about 22, let's say 23, and at that time I was getting paid to learn with this boy, but I wanted to learn with someone my own age. And I said to myself, if I'm learning in yeshiva, I might as well learn with someone my age. But I needed the money. So what do you do? So I had a conversation with Hashem, and I told him, Ribbon Shalom, you want me to learn, you want us to learn, I'll make a deal with you. You send me the money I need, and I'll learn with someone my own age. And Hashem said, okay. And I went and did that. So I started learning with this Chavrusa. Incidentally, I'm still learning with him now, over 20 years later. He lives in Ramat Beit Shemesh. His
That's not
name is
Eli
Yuval
Stefanski,
Malamed.
is it? No.
No, no. I only met him like about 10, 11 years ago.
But you go every day to the
Um,
shir. I see you.
yes,
You
yes.
were
We
the
work Hashem
miyastim of
as a
that shir
chutz.
also, right? Yeah.
That's correct. He has a chutz to be one of the miyastim of the shir. He's a good friend of mine. Either way, the person I'm talking about, his name is Yuval Malamed. He's the founder of a shul called B'nai Yeshivas on Noam next to MDY. We gave MDY property to build over there. Anyway, he's the guy by the founder of the shul.
Wow.
So I started learning with this guy, and I told Hashem I have enough money to get me through Sukkot. This is Elzma. I have enough money to get to the end of Sukkot. But after that, I need more money. That was what I told Hashem. And every day I'm waiting for Hashem to send me money. Every day I'm waiting for someone to come over to me and give me a check, and here's cash. I don't know. I'm waiting for something to happen. I'm sure Hashem's going to do it, but I just didn't know how. My in-laws in Harnof, and every year my wife's grandparents used to make a party on Chol Hamoed Sukkos for the whole family, children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. They lived on Brand in Harnof, and every year we had a party over there. So we're at the party, and there's a knock on the door, and Saba goes to the door, and he opens the door, and in walks his best friend. His best friend, his name is Dr. Moshe Katz from Lawrence. And so they're best friends. So 50 at that time, this is going back 25 years ago. They were best friends for 50 years at that point. How did they meet? So 50 years earlier, my wife's grandfather, Irving Maisel, he was, he wasn't such a frum guy. He was an American kid. But when his son was old enough to go to yeshiva, he wanted him to go to yeshiva. So he went to one of the local yeshivas in the Five Towns. He walks into the office. He says, my name is Irving Maisel. I want to sign up my kid to come to your yeshiva. So the guy by the desk says, that's very nice. Do you have enough money to pay tuition? So Irving Maisel says, I'm not a wealthy guy. I work for the New York City Housing Department, but I'm a contractor. And if anything breaks in the yeshiva, I will be available to fix it. You probably spend a lot of money fixing things. I'll be your guy. Anything you need, call me. Doesn't matter when. I will come and I will fix it. And that's how I will pay tuition. So the guy says to him, thank you very much. Don't worry about us. We'll worry about ourselves. And come back in a year. We'll get you a scholarship. So Irving Maisel, he used to go, his temper was like from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds. And he's like a New York City housing department guy. You can imagine. He loses it. He's like, you call yourself a yeshiva? What kind of Jew are you? Who's your mother? Who's your father? He starts yelling at the guy, screaming at the guy, chutzpah, what kind of a Jew are you? I want to send my kid to yeshiva. You're turning me down. And he starts screaming. He's leaving the office. He's slamming doors. Meanwhile, Moshe Katz is sitting in his office. He's the president of the yeshiva. And he hears some guy yelling at the top of his lungs. And he walks out of his office. He follows the guy out of the yeshiva to the parking lot, and he sees that the guy is getting into a car, and he wants to know what's going on. So he says to the guy, "Can you give me a ride to Far Rockaway?" So Irving Maisel says, "Sure, get in my car." So Moshe Katz waves goodbye to his own car, and he gets into Irving Maisel's car, and he drives him. And on the way, Moshe Katz says to him, "What's going on? What's wrong? What happened?" So Irving Maisel says, "I want to send my kid to yeshiva," and they're not willing to take him. I offered. I don't want tzedakah. I'm happy to pay. I'm a contractor. I know how much it costs to fix things. I'm willing to be on call. Moshe Katz does a very good deal. Everyone says, I don't want tzedakah. He says, not tzedakah. I signed the checks. It's a good deal. He says, tomorrow I'll bring you the papers. You'll have the papers in your house. So the next day he brought up the papers, and Howie Maisel went to yeshiva. They became best friends. And they moved, the Maisel family moved next to the Katz family. And every Shabbos they ate together. He joined Moshe Katz's shul. And they wanted to make him vice president. They wanted to make Rabbi Maisel vice president. But he wasn't showing the Shabbos. So he said, Moshe, you got to convince him. So Moshe took him out. He says, Irving, you got to become, they want to make you vice president. Me? He says, yeah. You just got to keep Shabbos first. He started becoming Shem Shabbos. The whole life changed. And now it's 50 years later. And there's a house full of from children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. And Irving Maisel puts his arm around his friend. He goes, Moshe, it's all you. He said, it's all yours. It's all yours, Moshe. So at the end of the night, Moshe Katz comes over to me and he says to me, Reb Nachman, I love your books. I love your writing. I was just starting. I want to write a book about my family. 9 out of 10 survived the war. 9 out of 10 kids survived the war. I want to write a book about it. Come to my hotel the day after Sukkot, and we'll sit down and talk about it. So the day after Sukkot, man, I drove to his hotel. He was staying at the King Solomon. We had our first meeting, and he gave me the first check. And after that, every month in the mail came a check for more than I needed for Parnasa. But it wasn't just that, because that led to another guy called me up not long afterwards from London. He was in Israel in the Ramada. He said, I read Moshe Katz's book, and I want to write a book with you. I was a little boy in Budapest, 6 years old during the war. We called that book Child of War. And one led to another. And I'm still doing it now, 56 books later. Hashem is still keeping his part of the deal, and I'm still learning with the same chavrusa.
I would say it's Min HaShamayim. You had that song Min HaShamayim. You were the star soloist. Was that was the song, right?
I mean, I wasn't a soloist on that song, but I was on that album. Yes,
you were on that album.
Correct.
You know, when I lived in Beitar, I'm almost 30 years ago, and I had a relative who would come visit. He was a wealthy person. He would come visit me, and he asked me, "What does everybody do in this neighborhood?" So I said, "We all learn Torah." So he said, "So what's the deal? Where are they getting money from?" So I said, "Well, I don't know. Everybody gets by. Somebody, you know, the in-laws help. Some people have, they sell, I don't know, they sell sheitlach. They do clean the marpeset for other people. They do different things." So he said to me, "Aaron, they must be stealing. They must be stealing from either the government or cheating on their taxes. It's impossible." Because
they have no taxes.
No, but so it's like the kasha that I never said this before, but I've been thinking about this, that the real kasha is the miracle that's happening in Eretz Yisrael.
Gemara says that the goyim have no connection to Shabbos. They can't keep Shabbos. It's one of the mitzvahs. It's just for Jewish people. And the Gemara says that Isser Giyora, there was a guy named Isser who said, before I became a Jew, I used to say there's no way Jewish people keep Shabbos. There's no way you could pass a wallet in the street on Shabbos and not pick it up. No way. Not possible. Meaning he doesn't understand the concept that what you would just see a wallet and not pick it up, that's the same thing this guy was saying to you. If people are getting by, it must be that they're stealing. No, maybe not. Maybe you just don't understand. Maybe they're living me'al derech hateva. Could it be you don't understand something? Maybe you don't understand, just like Easter Giyera didn't understand. You also don't understand. Legabe the world. The world is just basically proving yet again how important Klal Yisrael is in the greater scheme of things. The Goyim themselves do not understand why they are fixated on the Jewish people. They don't get it. It's like, it doesn't, we are the size of this is us, yeah? This is us, our country, okay? We are nothing. We are one teeny little bit of the world and tiny amount of people. And yet, every newspaper all over the world are busy talking about if we build a porch in Yerushalayim, in Shuafat, we build a porch. It's like the biggest news in the world. How about if you focus on Scandinavia? You know what? There's a new drill. They have a new saw that cuts through trees. Or in Denmark, they caught a fish. Leave us alone. Why are you busy with us all the time? No, they can't. They don't even know why. They're so busy with Eretz Yisrael, they don't even understand why. That is our job. We were given a job to be a light unto the nations. And Be'ez Hashem, we're doing our job. You know what? I think it was a lot of a Kiddush Hashem that happened at Torah 7. And if they don't like us, that's okay. Better to be feared than liked.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we say in Shmona Esrei, we say, Tzemach David, Avdecha Meheres Atzmiach, that there's a growth of the Geula. And I saw interesting last night, I saw the Rabbeinu Bechaya. Lama Nikra Shmoy Chazir, She'asid Lahachzir Atar Liyushna. He's going to bring the crown back. That it means that he's going to build the Beis HaMikdash. That Melech Edom is going to build the Beis HaMikdash. And I saw in Ema Bonim Smecha, Rav Techtel goes into Arichos. He goes into great depth explaining why this was a good idea in the second Beis HaMikdash, where only 42,340 people returned, like in the Yemei of Ezra, and 113 or 14 of them were married to Goyim. And those were the people who built the second Beis HaMikdash. And we're at this point right now where half of Klal Yisrael have returned. And there's a lot of conversation on social media about, are we, with the rise of Mamdani, are we at this point where we should start thinking about Eretz Yisrael?
I do believe that, I think New York has another 20 years. New York and most of America. I think Texas and Florida has maybe 40 years. But yeah, it's definitely a sign, because Mamdani is just one person. He's just one. You have to understand, all of the people who, if you look at what's going on at college campuses, the more sophisticated, the more plush of a college, the crazier, the sick ideology they teach their students. All of these students are going to grow up and they're going to go into politics, a lot of them, and they're going to be the next leaders in America. So right now, even if you still have people who support Israel, that is very possibly going to change in the next 20 years. And again, we're not dependent on politicians, we're not dependent, but you have to understand, the country, just because it was hospitable until now, does not mean it will stay hospitable. If you look at history repeats itself, right? So we should be open. I should be open to situations, should realize right now I could get a good price for my house. Maybe you could die to think about that. Why would you want to sell your house when you're over the barrel and under stress? Just look at what's going on. You know, if you don't think you're living in a bubble and you think, oh, life is great, take the bus, take the train, educate yourself. You'll realize very quickly what's really going on around you. Go out, take a train to Manhattan, walk around a little bit. Take a bus, take a city bus in Manhattan, in New York. You want to get a feeling of what's really going on? You're living in your bubble. It's scary. It's a very scary situation right now.
Okay. I wanted to just tease this topic a little more, because I think that there was a recent interview that was done, and a lot of people saw this interview, and it was between two Rabbanim. One, I don't know, was somebody in Eretz Yisrael who's into Aliyah, and another person who's a Rav in California, and they were talking about whether or not.
What are you talking? Who is the rabbi? Who's the person who's into Aliyah?
Michal Weichbrod.
He's not a Rav. He's not a Rav.
He's not a Rav.
Not a Rav.
He's not a Rav.
Good guy, but not a Rav.
He's not a Rav. Yeah, I think I was clear. I said he's not a Rav. It was between two, and there was a Rav in California. Okay. And they brought up 3 points actually. The first point was whether or not we follow Ramosha Feinstein. Ramosha Feinstein has a famous tshuva. I actually spent 6 hours yesterday in the Dibros Moshe in Gittin, going through a lot of the shitas of Ramosha. It's a very complex sugya about the shita of Rabbeinu Chaim in Taisus and Ksubas Kuf Yud, and the shita of the Megillas Esther. I mean, the puzzle is that the Rambam doesn't mention mitzvahs yishuv Eretz Yisrael. So this was the first topic: was do we follow like the Ramban, who interestingly enough moved to Eretz Yisrael, even though he was being persecuted, but he did move here, or the Rambam, who lived in Egypt and probably couldn't, but he didn't move to Eretz Yisrael. He didn't end up doing it. And the Rambam doesn't say. Now, there are a lot of opinions. So that's one. That's one argument that's given. But I think the bigger argument, because both sides of that argument are agreeing that we should be here. It's just a question of if it's a responsibility on every person to do, just like we wear tzitzis. That's the example. But the second issue was the children's education. And I think Ramat Beit Shemesh has come a huge way. And like I was speaking to somebody yesterday that, there's probably 10,000 kids who are olim in yeshivas, and you can't say they're all going off the derech. So I wanted to know if you could maybe share what your insights were about
Focus the question.
the issue of kids going off the derech from Olim, is that a real thing or is that an imagined phenomenon? And should people?
Okay, you just left your whole introduction and went into a different question, right?
I'm not following. Yeah.
Meaning the whole introduction was about the mitzvah of mitzvah chiyuvis versus mitzvah kiyumis.
No, mitzvah.
Right?
So there were three things that they mentioned in the interview. They mentioned mitzvah chiyuvis, and the second thing was whether or not the kids will go off the derech, and the third thing was whether or not it's. The third thing was why the Rabbanim didn't tell anybody to do it. Will any rabbi get up and say, move to Eretz Yisrael? So the first, the first issue of the machlokes between the Megillas Esther's interpretation of the Rambam and the Ramban, I think, is a mute point because everybody agrees it's a mitzvah d'oraisa, and it's just like tzitzis, and we all like to do mitzvahs d'oraisas. I think we all wear tzitzis, and
we feel it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
But I think we are pro mitzvah d'oraisa.
Yeah.
So your question is kids at risk. That's your question.
My question is kids at risk a real reason? I'll even say further that Chizkiyahu HaMelech, the Navi, came to him and said, Meis ata. Why? Because he didn't want to have Menashe. He saw in the Ruach HaKodesh that he's going to have Menashe, and Hashem said to him, you got to do what Hashem tells you to do. Hashem tells you to do this mitzvah.
Don't mix in.
Don't make cheshbonis for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if taka, it's the right thing to do, so we can't make cheshbonis about our kids.
I'm not going to. Chinuch is one of the reasons you're allowed to live in America. Okay. Right. That is so a person could say that, but
that's to leave Eretz Yisrael, according to the Megillah.
Right, so it's the same idea. It's the same idea.
Ramosha says it's not the same idea.
What
he makes a chiluk. Ramosha's question is if the Rambam actually held that it's also to live in Chutz La'aretz. Says don't say it's also to leave Eretz Yisrael. Say it's also to live in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, but yeah.
Either way, be that as it may, Baruch Hashem today Eretz Yisrael has come a long way. And there are many, many schools and many places for kids to learn. That said, if a family is settled and the kids are all doing well, I would hesitate to tell them to uproot themselves and move to a different country because it's a different culture and it's a different way of thinking and it's a different system. Now, if everybody comes together from America, meaning when people say, what do you want? There's no chinuch here. The answer is, if you all came here and you made chinuch, then there would be American chinuch. If Lakewood came to Eretz Yisrael, then we would have the Lakewood chinuch in Eretz Yisrael. And there's plenty of room for everybody. So it's not really an answer. But at the point where they're not, honestly, when people ask me, I can't tell them, you have to come here if you're doing well. Meaning it's a difference. We have to differentiate between a young couple who are starting out and a family with 10 kids or 8 kids who are living in and they're settled and they're doing well. There, I hesitate to tell people there's uproot children from a system when they're doing well. That's something which I would not tell people to do. But on the other hand, if you're starting out, why not start out in Eretz Yisrael? Why not? Baruch Hashem, today there are many different. It's very different than it used to be, and there's. I think the children have a very, very good. There's a very good percentage of kids who are Baruch Hashem doing very well. And in America, probably the percentage is very close to each other. In Lakewood and Ramat Shemesh today. In the beginning of Ramat Shemesh, it was different. It was a big mix of people coming from all over the world. It was very different. Today, there's neighborhoods. You can live with the same type of people like you. You can find a neighborhood similar to you. There's no reason it shouldn't work out. But that's, again, when you're starting the journey. I hesitate to say to people whose children are already in the system and it's working well, something called Sheval Tasa Odiv sometimes.
Why isn't it a mitzvah chiyuvis? Imagine if the Rambam and the Ramban both paskind, everybody was said, and it was nifsek and shulchan aruch la'alocha, everybody has to live in Eretz Yisrael, right?
Right.
And then people didn't come, right? So it really has to be. I heard from a rebbe of mine who heard it from his rebbe. So I don't want to say who. I don't remember who it's from exactly, but he said that why does Mashiach have to be a person? Why can't it? Maybe I think it's from the Maral. Why does it have to be a person? Why can't? I'm sure you could explain, but why can't it just be a movement? Why can't it just be a tnuah? It can't be just an awakening of Hashem removing the orla from our heart and making everybody just want to be. So
Yeah.
he said that it has to be a person because it has to come from us, meaning that the only way that what Hashem really wants, he already took us out of Mitzrayim, and we already came after the Midbar, we came into Eretz Yisrael, we were tzaddikim, we lived with Yeshua, but then the he really wanted, like the Ramban says on the mitzvah of L'shichnai Tidrishu, that there's a mitzvah deraisa to go and seek out the Beis HaMikdash. And that was the chet in the end of Divrei Hayamim by David HaMelech when the Satan came and the Magefa. And the reason David HaMelech went and counted Klal Yisrael because there was a Magefa that happened and people died. There was a plague, there was COVID from that. The sin of those people was that they weren't seeking out Hashem. Maybe tell us about, I know you're a star member of Rabbi Stefanski. We mentioned it at Rabbi Stefanski's shir, the MDY. Maybe tell us about what MDY is and how you got involved and how you helped start it.
Rabbi Eli moved to Ramat Beit Shemesh from Chicago about 10 years ago. He joined my shul. He sat on my bench, and I recognized him from his interview he did in Ami magazine, Lunch Break, with Hassan Al-Gantz, who was also a good friend of his. And we became friends. And every time he told me, I remember right when I met him, he told me he has a dream. He very much admires David Hafstadter, who started Dirshu. And he wants to also do something to have a global effect on Klal Yisrael. He always thought big. And he started doing many things, halacha shir, then a synopsis of the daf yomi of the week. And every time he would do something, he would ask me to come support him. And I always try to give him support. Why not? He's trying to do good things. And Baruch Hashem, today the shir has between 30 and 40,000 people every day, between Hebrew and English, all around the world. And many, in Israel alone, there's 29 satellite locations. America, about 25, between 20 and 30 satellite locations. And it's an amazing thing. We're about to have a Shabbaton in a few weeks in America, expecting a few thousand people. It's sold out right away. And what's amazing, the thing that to me is the most amazing thing about it, and this comes up a lot, that many people, when they write their emails to the shir, to Rebelli, they say that they haven't picked up a sefer since Yeshiva. They haven't learned the 20 years. They haven't learned the 30 years. They had trauma from Yeshiva. They haven't learned Gemara. And now they're learning every day, finishing Masechtas, and they're back. Torah is part of their lives again. So for me, just for that, it's worthwhile. That people haven't learned in so long, and they're learning now, and they're loving Torah as part of their life. Mamish, just for that alone, MDY, Ashreinu, that it exists in the world. Baruch Hashem.
It's not the daf, it's the Yomi, right?
That's what he always says. It's not about the daf, it's about the Yomi.
And that's doing the same, having a schedule and doing that every day.
His thing that he stresses is consistency. That's the thing he stresses, and then he says once a person takes consistency, so then he's able to bring in many other things in his life. Like he always pushes Shnai Mikra V'Chatargum. He pushes not talking during Kaddish, which in the beginning I was like, I don't like not talking during Kaddish because it's like it implies that during the rest of davening. But he's like, at least take something. Sometimes we have arguments, different hashkafic points, and I get a lot of times people from different places thank me for presenting the counterpoint, and that's my job. And but he's doing amazing things. He's really helping people to change. He's showing people that no matter look, I think he himself, he wants to talk about something that he taught everybody. He didn't tell you change. He's not telling a person, look at me, I'm a person, I sit and learn my whole life, and you should be like me. No, he's saying, look at me, I'm a businessman. I lived in Chicago. I drove my Beamer. I drove my Lexus. I was a party guy. I was a fun guy. I was having a great time, handing out shallots. I also gave it a few share, but his focus, he was a businessman. At the end of the day, he was a businessman. And this businessman, who has a very nice portfolio of real estate, very successful guy, but inside he wanted to be different. He wanted to shift the focus. And so when he tells you that you can change, it's coming from a place that he's not telling you, oh, do something that he didn't do. He's doing it. He doesn't work now. He sits and learns from morning till night. He's basically always preparing for shir. It's like he's always busy with Gemara now. He's living the sugyo. He has a big achrayas. So if you want to look at him as an example of somebody who put his money where his mouth is, literally, and in the most literal way, is changing his life each and every day. And he's a person who was also not a kavua person. He was always all over the place. He ADHD, and now he's committed. And every day he's teaching. He doesn't miss a day.
He still gets up on the table and smashes the grapes and brings the
whatever
sheep.
it takes, whatever it takes, whatever it takes to bring people to learn Torah. That's the goal, no matter what it is. You have to get up on a table to stand by grapes, stop by grapes. Sit on a lion. He would go skydiving. He would do whatever it takes. He wants people to learn Torah. That's his dream. And Baruch Hashem, he's doing it. So I think I don't have to go to stories over here. He's the big story. We're going to do a book, Bez Hashem, about MDY.
I want to do a book about you. I'm sure the 100th person, right?
I'll tell you what I tell people. I'm not so interesting. I just know a lot of interesting people.
Okay, yeah. Great. So thank you very much.
You, Baron. You're an interesting guy. I know you for a long time. You're very interesting.
Well, I'll tell you something personal, that 6 months ago, my child and Eli Stefanski's child both are in the same yeshiva. And we had an Avos Ubanim. And I'm sitting there learning with my son. And Eli Stefansky sits down over there. And I see he's learning with his son. And I look at him. I know he's a very busy person. And he's sitting there learning Basmada with his son. And at that moment, I said, and this is not going to sound gaivadik. It's going to sound very gaivadik. But I said, Eli Stefansky did it. I want to open a YouTube channel. Right? And at that moment, I said, he gave me inspiration. I said, and that's why I started doing this. I've been writing Divrei Torah and giving out a daf or the parsha every week in Hebrew, 4 pages. And I've been doing that for 10 years. And I'm involved with a radio station in America that I've been playing your music as well. And at the same time, someone just that day asked me, why don't you start going on video? So I really, deep down, I never said this to anybody, and I never talked about this, but he really, I think it's an insult to say if he did it, I could do it. But I really mean that. I really mean it. That right. He was just. I saw what he'd done, and Baruch Hashem, I'm glad that I got that inspiration from him.
Listen, you should be matzliach. Keep on doing what you're doing, helping clients, introducing clients to all the things to think about, to not just look at the life on a surface level. To try to ask yourself questions. What does Hashem really want from me? I think every person has to ask himself that question. That's what Rabbi Aliyah asked himself. Rabbi David Hafstadter asked himself that question. It wasn't easy for any person who tries to do things in life. People ask them, "Who says you should do this? Who died and appointed you, speaker for Klal Yisrael?" Whoever's doing big things gets pushed back. And it's okay. It's part of it. It's the Yetzer Hara trying to say to throw spokes in your wheels, and it's all good. But they're teaching us. Ask yourself, what does Hashem want me to do? What can I do for Klal Yisrael? Just because I'm doing this doesn't mean I shouldn't be doing something else. Just because I'm in America doesn't mean necessarily I shouldn't be in Eretz Yisrael. Ask yourself tough questions. Don't just live. I think what you're saying here on this show is, don't just live your life without asking questions. Ask yourself, what am I supposed to be doing? What's my tafkid? Where am I supposed to be? I think that's what I'm getting out of this show. And Beautiful. That's a very good thing. And all these people are doing their thing. Each one learns from someone else. Rabbi Eli got from Rabbi David Hafstadter. David Hafstadter, I don't know who was mashpia on him, but somebody was mashpia on him. It's like a pyramid scheme, but without any downside. Everybody's helping someone else to say, I can also do big things in the world. What is my tafkid? What does Hashem want me to do? And I think that's a question everyone should be asking themselves. And then we should be working towards fulfilling our tafkid. That's really what Hashem wants us to do. And if you ask yourself, what's your tafkid? I'll end with this. What's your tafkid? You ask, how do I know? I wasn't born with a little slip attached to my pinky toe telling me what my tafkid is. So how do I know? So I think we can answer. The answer is you have to ask yourself, what inspires me? What excites me? Usually your tafkid lies in the things you're naturally drawn to in life. That's your place. That's your makom of expertise. That's the place that you can use to help Klal Yisrael.
Rabbi Seltzer, thank you for joining us on this Hidabroot podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Rabbi. With everything.